Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It appears that it'll just be me and Hell today for virtual book club. Well, I chose this book, so it's my fault if no one likes it.
I thought actually I went back and looked, and it was Elizabeth who nominated it.
Oh,
Because I was curious, I went back and looked, and for the whole year, the only one I couldn't remember was who nominated 1929 that we read back in February. But I was sort of curious, how often how often books being nominated by someone ends up being the most voted for. And
right.
so, yeah, which, maybe she's on or she will be on in the chat, but you know, you know, someone who nominates a book and then we pick that book and then they don't show up for the
Yeah.
discussions is, I mean, it's fine because, we voted for it and it's a great
Yeah,
book.
no, I wanted to read this book.
Yep.
Like before it was nominated. So, yeah, no, I was glad it was nominated. But yeah, we have stuff like that go on. It's almost like we have to build controls for that.
Well, I mean, it's
We have
okay.
an internal
I mean,
control.
it's okay. I mean, everybody gets a chance to vote. So
Yeah, that's right.
and the detractor is, if you don't show up, then your vote doesn't count as much.
That's true.
So
I don't know how the weighting happens. Like one day you'll have to show me how that works.
I mean, I'll tell you, it's just us, so.
Well, it's just us and everyone on Facebook.
Right. Hi, everyone on Facebook. Sorry, we're boring you. If you don't since the next time we'll be voting will be October's book.
Okay.
So this month, if you attend both sessions, your vote is worth 3. If you attend one session, your vote is worth 2. If you attend no sessions, your vote is worth 1. Is the way I've been doing it. Right. So, it creates the incentive to participate if I mean, it's not that your vote doesn't count. It just doesn't count as much if you're not as active.
Right. And I think that's fair. It's reasonable.
Yep. So that's the way I've been doing it.
Okay. I like it.
And I have kept a couple I must have wrote over the file and didn't keep it, but there's, I've tried to keep the file in case anybody wants to question, the vote or anything like that.
It's sounding like our peanut butter club back in the day. We had rules and regulations. But no, I did come across this. It was like book recommendations for book clubs.
Right.
And I did come across this audacious book club where she had FAQs about her book club. And I thought, maybe I should document them like that. There was this one time when you had someone had asked how the book club works, and you had made like a comment. I should have taken that comment down because it was really good. It explained in like 5 sentences or 6 how it works, and then I could just expand on that. But basically how book club works is like, if you ever golfed with me, you know that I used to like book 2 to 4 tea times right against each other, right back to back. And then I would send an email out, and anyone that wanted to come would show up, would say, yes, I'm coming, and show up that day and then pay their green fee and play. That's how easy it was.
Mhm.
Book club's the same, except it's even better. Like you don't have to pay, but maybe we should make people pay. Maybe that's how they show up. I don't know. maybe you pay. Maybe you pay. Like, like a coffee or whatever every time you show. I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, what one of the things we always say too is, you don't have to have read the book. You don't have to have completed reading it to participate in the conversation. I think, it's a fiction that probably is hard to do if you haven't read the book. But many of the nonfictions, like if you're paying attention to current events, you
Mhm.
could talk about the subject matter in this book, picking up on what people say who have read it, right? You
And
know,
even if you thought it was completely something else, like I thought choke points was going to talk about the Strait of Hormuz, the Panama Canal, like choke points,
right?
physical, natural choke points in the world. Completely wrong about that.
Well, the subtitle was a bit of a bigger giveaway, right? American power
Mhm.
in the age of economic warfare. And that might, from an international audience, that might detract from people wanting to read it. Like, why do I care about American power, right?
Yeah.
That's the last thing I want to read about. Um, but I mean, the reality is that, I mean, the United States is, the largest country from an economic impact standpoint, largest GDP. And, maybe its influence is certainly arguably on the decline, is still incredibly influential in
Mhm.
what happens. And basically, the premise of the book, for those who haven't read it, is at the end of the day, wars, between major countries, major powers, are unlikely to be fought with military anymore, right? The wars are going to be on the economic front. Who can do the most damage to another country's economy
Economy.
to
Yeah,
stop them doing from whatever they're doing.
exactly. Whether it be, I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of wars being waged now. Louis, I know he's excited when we talk about war.
Well, I mean, the book has a whole section on, it starts with a whole section on Iran, but it deals with most
Yeah,
of the stuff that happened through the Obama administration,
administration.
and so, but it's just fascinating that it's, right back in current events. Um,
Totally.
with the exact same problem that was trying to be dealt with then, and that was to try and prevent Iran from moving forward on its aspirations to be a nuclear power. You're on mute, Benita.
Absolutely. I think there's a postman or a delivery guy that Louis is trying to defend us from.
It's always good to have a guard dog.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and I think what we are, I feel like I'm so grateful and we're so spoiled by the fact, Louis, it's like sometimes I wish we could go to commercial break. I should make a few commercials. Um, we're so spoiled by the fact that, like we flick on a switch and, light comes on and a light bulb will light up. We go to the gas station and we put gasoline in our cars, and then we're able to drive.
Yep.
We turn on a laptop, and then the internet powers whatever comes on our screens, and we're connected. It's like we're so spoiled. One of the big questions I got from this was like, um, I had like an intro. It was quite good, if I do say so myself. Yeah, like what parts of your daily life are aren't actually under your control? Like I just named a few. Like internet can be taken away from us so easily.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story. Last
Yeah.
Thursday, last week, I was, up early as always and doing stuff on my PC, and I left to go for my walk. Come back about an hour or hour and a half later, you know, go to check something on the PC before getting a shower, and it had turned itself off. And I'm like, it's never done that before. So I go to turn it back on, and it asked me for my login. And then I get the welcome screen and the little wheel going round and round and round and round, but it never stopped doing that. So I'm researching on my phone how to diagnose that, how do you fix it. Long story short, I could not get it to do anything beyond that. So I was dead in the water. So I had to take it somewhere. And their best guess is that somehow Windows 11 got corrupted. But the point of the story was that was a long 24 hours, because every time I think during the day of something I wanted to do, it was like I either have to do it on my phone, or it's a file that I can't access because I can't do anything on my PC. And it was the old story of, you don't know how much you appreciate what you have until you don't have it. you know and it was such, to me it was sort of like, oh God, Friday morning was, oh God, please call me today, because I know they're closed on the weekend, and I don't know if I could go the whole weekend, with all the things that I had anticipated and planned to do, working on an article, paying bills and all the stuff that I was going to do, that would have been just completely near impossible.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody can relate to that. We assume it's always going to be there until it's not, but it's built on like undersea cables and like ISPSs and DNSs and all this infrastructure behind the walls and under the ground that we have no idea about.
Right.
And then there's the banking you mentioned. We tap a card and we don't think about payment networks or corresponding banks or the role of the US dollar,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Electricity, we talked about that. It feels like
Which which tees up a conversation we've had on prior calls about about how at risk countries are from attacks against infrastructure. Right.
yes.
Russia, China, certainly, and the US all have the capability to, through malware, you know completely disrupt one of the other countries infrastructure.
Oh, and they already have.
Right. They've tested to see if they could pull it
Hmm.
off, and stuff like that. you know so when you think about the stuff in this book, which is about using economic leverage, sanctions, and stuff like that, to try and stop a country from doing what the world mostly doesn't want it to be doing. You know, the, you know, you have to more and more think through, well, what would they do to retaliate?
Yeah. What I guess what I don't understand is, I don't know. And I hate that, like, back in the day I would be called a Chinese sympathizer and like be you know, not treated well, but I am Chinese. I guess I have to sympathize with my descendants or ascendants, descendants.
Yeah.
Um, but if China actually becomes like a technical, like a IG or a 5G superpower,
Yeah.
then why do the Americans think that they'll use that power to attack them?
Um, part of it is just built on fear and cynicism, but I also think it is that the vast majority of the Chinese population, doesn't think about any of that. It's just the mentality of the Chinese leadership. The,
Totally.
the challenge between the three major superpowers now, and why, you know, Russia and China really probably don't want to do anything with each other than, you know, an enemy of my enemy is my friend,
Right.
right? And so, I don't know how much they'll truly cooperate, but both of those countries have aspirations of knocking the US off the position that it has as the biggest economy, the most successful in the world, the greatest influence. They both, because and I'm not saying the US doesn't view this way too, especially in a Trump administration world. It's all a zero sum game. The only way I can win is if somebody else loses, right?
Right.
That's not what globalization was intended to be. The mentality of globalization is together we all win, you know,
Exactly.
right? And that's the way most people, Americans, Russians, Chinese, pick your country, the greater populace, that's the way they think. It's just that that's not the way the leadership thinks.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Good point there.
And it's, how much can you trust? Look at, I mean, you go back, pulling out things out of the book, during the Obama administration, the challenges with, trying to get Iran to stop its nuclear ambitions, and the negotiate through the economic leverage that was used to get to this thing called the JCPOA, the joint whatever,
Right.
plan of
Um,
action,
right.
and it arguably stopped Iran
Mhm.
from its pursuit. But then Trump won, he tore up the agreement.
Mhm.
So Iran went
A
back
few
to its
agreements.
old prior aspirations. We're going to
Yeah.
regenerate our plans to be join the
Yeah,
nuclear
and
club.
they like they made their leader infrastructure even more like spider webbed so that if you took out one like head of the snake,
Right.
another one would crop up. So it kind of like, wow. Yeah, no, it's amazing that we learned about what one administration was doing in terms of foreign affairs and then how that impacted the next one because we don't usually get to see that part. We just see what's on the news and like what the numbers are. But in this book, we learned about like the actual people and players, like the one guy that was negotiating or was an ambassador to Iran. He didn't see his family for like half a year or something.
Right.
Yeah, like, and that's not something you would hear on the news.
No. No, and the Iran, the situation with Iran now is being covered more in the news, I think, than back in the day when it was during the Obama administration. I think for two
Mhm.
reasons.
Right.
One, it's not just economic leverage, it's military power that's
Mhm.
being used. And, you know, every news agency is hanging on every soundbite that coming from Trump. Where
Right.
Obama and that administration, like them or not, they were much more holding stuff to the vest. It was
Mhm.
stuff that was happening from negotiation, and diplomacy, attempts at diplomacy that
Yeah.
was boring and not discussed with the press,
No, 'cause why would you?
right? But using just economic leverage against Iran now would, from a Trump administration view of the world, and this is just my interpretation, I could be wrong.
No, of
it's
course.
not it's not fast enough, it's not flashy enough, and it doesn't serve the interests of Israel, who is really also pulling a bunch of strings here.
Yeah. I'm just starting to learn about that, and then now I understand why there were so many, like, rioters about that at the beginning of like, right after October 5th or whatever.
Right.
Um, yeah, like, my, understanding of Middle East history or, geopolitics is a lot less than, like, um, Eastern Asia.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm into, like, a whole bunch of history books right now. Let's keep on going down that list.
Okay.
GPS. Can you imagine if all of a sudden we had no Garmin, no Google Maps?
You mean you'd have to actually, if you could
Yeah,
find one, pull out a physical map?
yeah. You have to either remember, and then you don't have like construction interlay or anything.
I mean, I
Yeah.
remember, I'm dating myself, of course, with this reference, but I remember as a kid when we would go on family vacations, my dad would get those things called the from AAA, these trip tickets. And it was like this booklet of the map from your one
Oh yeah, yeah,
destination
yeah. I
to your
remember
other
that too.
destination. And it would show, road construction and stuff like that, but it was all this physical thing. And for me as a kid, it was fascinating. So I was sort of like co-pilot.
Right, it's
Yeah,
fun.
dad, in a little while, you got to make it. You got to get on this other highway, exit whatever, and stuff like that.
Yeah, with me it
Because
was with grandpa.
you couldn't drive and look at that while you're going,
No.
60 miles an hour down the road, but that was all you had.
Grandpa had a station wagon.
You'd stop it, you'd stop and ask for directions.
Yeah. I don't remember ever doing that. I remember a lot of, like, trips where grandpa and grandma were in the front, and then, like, my Aunt Helen was in the back, and then maybe, like, a few bigger cousins, and then the little cousins were in the back of the station wagon.
But I would here's an argument, that I think that because we are so reliant on GPS technology to tell us how to get from point A to point B, and tell us as we're driving, in a quarter mile, you'll turn left at the light, whatever. It just tells you. So you just do, right?
Mhm.
As opposed to, I got to plan the trip. I got to figure out how I'm going to get there. I got to pay attention to all the road signs and actually think. I can't let my mind drift because I don't want to get lost. I don't want to have to
Mhm.
stop and relook at the map, So it's one way that technology not only makes us lazier, but
Mhm.
doesn't engage our brain cells the way
No.
it used to.
Yeah, I found that, I used to not use GPS in the city that I grew up in, um, and just use my memory. And then when I came back 5 years without being here for 5 years, I was like, I realized I couldn't do that anymore. So I started using it again, and I found that it came up with better routes than I used to have.
Well, it would also now it knows because now it knows that there's an accident, so it will
Yes.
reroute you, and stuff like that, because of what satellites are able to do, so in real time or near real time, you'll the fastest route, even though it's not the route you would have taken if you just relied on the way you always go, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But it doesn't engage our brains to think
No.
through all of that. It's to think through, the mental power it takes to, visualize a route you've never taken before from a map, a physical map, and plan the trip in your head
Mhm.
so that as opposed to just, I'll just get in the car and I'll have it tell me what to do.
Yeah. So internet, banking, electricity, GPS, cell phones, medication, coffee, even coffee. Like a simple morning ritual depends on farmers, shipping routes, ports, customers, and retailers.
Yeah.
And so, like, without, if any one of these things go down, my day is a little less bright. And if all of them go down, I'm at someone's mercy. So, Edward Fishman's argument is that countries are no different. Nations depend on systems they don't fully control. The countries, companies, and institutions that control these systems hold tremendous influence. Those are the choke points the book explores. Um, what's what do look? What do you think like power looks like today? Is it still tanks and missiles, or is it control over money, technology, data, and supply chains? Like, what does power look like?
um, I think I'm not, I think it depends. I think you still in today's world have to be a military power to be able to exercise economic leverage or economic power,
Mm-hmm.
right? And almost in every instance, the more meaningful you are as a country, the more you've invested in the military, but you're military, but you're using the military as sort of like a threat to
Yeah.
use to keep someone from doing what they're doing, but then you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to enter into a military conflict
Right.
that unless you can win. So you then use economic leverage backed up by the threat of military might, military power.
Yeah.
But
Like,
then look at current examples of how that's not working. Look how long it took Israel to try and what it did to Gaza to try and get rid of God, I can't think of the names. What how long it's taken Russia, whose military power is significant orders of magnitude over Ukraine, you know, that they thought they'd be in Kiev and install a new government, in a day, and it's now years,
Mhm.
the U.S. and Iran,
Mhm. I've always
Iran keeps retaliating with military actions. At least in theory, on paper, we should be able to. U.S. should be able to blow Iran. Not that I would ever want that. Not I would not want that, but should be able to blow it back to the Middle Ages if it wanted to. But it doesn't seem to be able to.
mm-mm.
So this outsized military power. It just doesn't work anymore.
No.
You need it, but you should do everything you can to avoid using it.
Mhm. It's like a gym monkey.
So it'd
You
be
should go to the
interesting to
gym.
see, if and when, because everybody is expecting it at some point in time, if and when China's going to actually try to reclaim Taiwan.
Right.
And how are
Um,
they going to do it?
um,
I mean, Taiwan has no military capability. The only
no, but
reason
they have,
China
like,
isn't doing it now is China is better than any other country in playing the long game.
oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, and they can't. They don't want to. They My assumption is they don't want to deal with the global reaction.
Yes, I
So
think so
you
too.
wait. They're just waiting it out, but it's inevitable because it's been part of the plan for decades.
Centuries. Mhm. Like Hong Kong was handed back. Kowloon was handed back. And then, like, their century of humiliation, just Taiwan is the last one that but and then the reason why they can't have it back is because all the Taiwan, the TSMC or whatever, the Taiwan Semiconductor
Right.
Manufacturing, like, that's where the US tech is for some reason. And then I think in Chip War, we talked about how hard it was for them to move it to, like, Arizona or Phoenix or whatever.
Right.
Um, and it would take years. So, I don't know, still to be seen. What a funny world we live in. What an interesting world we live in.
Well, I mean, it's inordinately complex, and because of how globalized things are, every action has reactions that you can anticipate and predict, and ones you can't.
Mhm.
Um, and it's really why when you're reading this book, why experts are so important to, let's say, the US's presidential administration, having experts who understand this stuff deeply, not appointing people because they just agree with you when you're the president, but don't have a clue what the implications are. You
Mhm.
know, um, you know, I mean,
Well, I noticed that past administrations, like, there was that one case where, a previous administration wasn't sending, like, the expert, they were sending, like, the diplomat, and I was like, "Ooh, that's something maybe our current, leaders could try."
yeah, but it's not sending Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Kushner, to go negotiate, you know,
Well,
complex deals.
yeah, no, well, I heard that no, Kushner's, like, buddies with, like, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia. and they
The
play
guy
video
we've
games
never still
about it.
held account to the fact that he had that journalist slaughtered.
Right, right. That they play video games. Why do we know this? We should not know this.
I mean, I mean, kind of getting back to the book, I mean, the book is it's long, but it's necessarily long because it really, as you read it, it points out how complex dealing with things like sanctions are. It's not, we're just gonna tariff the world.
Well, well, try implementing it inside an organization when, like, the last time sanctions were used was in the Cold War. It's like in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea. There was a whole bunch of companies in US and Canada that were operating in Russia, in Siberia,
Right,
so like in the oil and gas fields. And a lot of them pulled out, and some of them, and for different reasons, uh, and then sold off their assets, like some of their assets, to Rosneft.
mm-hmm.
Like, if that's not a transfer of technology, I don't know what is.
Yeah,
And so, like, I think having to watch that, and I can talk about it now. It's like way after like it's like more than 7 years ago. Um, it's when you sat there and thought about it at work, like it's like, wow, like I mean, with this sale goes like a whole bunch of technology that they wouldn't have had unless they bought. And with that technology, they're doing things like annexing and killing others. Like, this is not good. I don't like my job to be like this close to. I don't want the decisions of my role in a company to be this close to what happens on a battlefield. You know what I mean?
right, right,
Where I can directly tie it. I remember I had IBS and acid reflux all the time. And there's nothing I could do about it. Like, I'm just told what I'm to do,
right.
you know? So, and that's when I realized, like, I'm an advisor. I advise you, and you either take the advice or you don't. So, yeah, that was a really good learning experience.
Yeah, I mean, the backdrop to a lot of this, that helps me put things into perspective is and I may not be completely right, but it's my simplistic interpretation of the three main players in the world, the mentality behind it, and I'm talking about U.S., Russia, and China. You know, China, she is gonna be in that role till he dies, right?
Mhm.
So it's a long term view with the goal of being the number one superpower economically, militarily, technologically, just being the number one in the world is the overarching goal.
Mhm.
You know, Russia, same thing. Putin's not going anywhere till he dies or is assassinated. He's not going anywhere. And his goal is to right the wrong of how Russia was broken up as, is the greatest wrong ever. His goal is to reconstitute the Soviet Union,
Right.
right? In the US, well, every 4 to 8 years, we keep changing. There's no
Yeah.
continuity in that. And so as much as I favor the US's approach to democracy over the other countries, um, it is a huge flaw in philosophically dealing with the world that Russia and China have an advantage because they can
Mhm.
have a strategy and they can stick to it to a long time, agree with it or disagree with it,
Yep. They can have
right?
like a 50-year plan.
And I mean, U.S., Canada, for that matter,
Mhm.
the philosophy, the
I
governing
feel your pain.
philosophy, can keep changing.
Mhm. Every 4 years, every 8 years.
Yep.
Sometimes even every 1 year. Um, I've changed my name on LinkedIn to show my Chinese name as
I
well,
noticed that.
but only because I've been invited to go with Team Canada on a trade mission to Beijing.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so I feel safe going with Team Canada. Like I wouldn't go on my own, that's for sure.
Yeah, when I was working for the Institute of Internal Auditors, we made one big excursion to China as a leadership team. And when we were taken around sightseeing, we were closely guarded. When we went
Mhm.
through Tiananmen Square and things like that, it was just like, there was a lot of people just keeping an eye on us,
Mhm.
for our safety. I never felt unsafe, but
No. No, I've been there before, but I now realize how crazy it was that me and my girlfriend went there alone. Well, to meet up with her parents, but it was like everybody just kept on saying like two girls traveling alone, and we're like, no, no, we're meeting up with our parents. We're just alone right now. But I don't know. That was in like the early 2000s, so yeah, no, that's why I've done that. So you know, but I have to keep my nose clean before that, I think. I mustn't say anything that offends anyone.
especially not in writing.
Yeah. Louis scratching himself, but he has this
Oh, I
like,
was wondering what that was.
yeah, he has this empty bottle beside him because I threw it in his direction when he was barking. So he's scratching and he's hitting that bottle. So I guess like our next meeting on the 29th, was it?
Yeah.
We had a long discussion about what does power look like and what are the things that we depend on that aren't actually under our control. Like nothing is. We don't really have control of anything.
Well, we think we do
We think we
when
do.
things work the way we expect them to,
Mhm.
right? But we don't have control over, you know, go out. You plan to go somewhere. You go out. The car doesn't start because the battery's dead, or you have a flat tire. Well, you had agency. You had control of the situation until some event said, no, no, you don't. It's the same thing with, access to internet or payment systems or whatever it is. We feel like we have control as long as things work the way we anticipate them to.
Mhm. Yeah, these are
Watch a Florida economy that's gotten devastated by a hurricane, and nobody's got power, and nobody's got running water, and no, everybody's just fending for themselves to just try to survive for days on end. You know,
yeah. Yeah, no, I've lived through floods as well and without electricity. Of course, I got to go to like a two-star hotel, but yeah, no, those things
I'm,
remind
I'm
you.
outside in the driving rain trying to fire up a generator and figuring out which circuit breakers and ampage the we are going to turn on and what we're not going to bother with. Yeah.
Yeah, and your neighbors too, like everyone's just doing the same thing.
Yeah. Those that
Everybody
have
has
generators, yeah,
right.
it sounds like a war zone in the middle of the day
It
when
does. That's it's amazing that we have so many book club members from different parts of the world, and we not only share what we thought of the books we read, but we also learn about like the lifestyle and the geography of the places that we might not have ever seen.
yeah, I've been sending notes back and forth to Ferens regarding Spain's success so far in the World Cup and their surprise
Mm,
victory over France. So
yeah, that must be why he's not here. They're
no, he just flat out in one of his communications in the group chat just said he did not want to read this book and he'll see us in August.
okay. What are we reading in August? I forget.
We are reading How to Be Free.
Ooh.
It is one Ferens did nominated, so
Okay, yeah.
I do
Then
expect that, and he nominated September's Fahrenheit 451. So
good. Yeah. Um,
I'm looking forward to reading. I mean, it's been so long ago that I read Fahrenheit 451. Then, other than the premise, I remember very little
well,
of it.
I'm so excited that it's a classic. And
Yep.
so whenever you can add a classic to your list of books, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. The only challenge we're going to have is that there's so many versions of the book
Oh.
that it's going to be difficult for us to say on page whatever if we wanted to refer to a page,
Mhm.
because like I have one on my bookshelf that I bought more than 10 years ago with the if I get back to reading classics I'm going to read this one, and it's just been collecting dust, but it's a small paperback.
Yeah, I like those. I think my Catcher in the Rye is like one of those small paperbacks.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's a real collector's version. So okay, uh August is How to Be Free. September is 451 Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit 451, yes.
Okay.
That's Ray Bradbury. I don't remember the author's name on August's book. I'm looking right now because it's not an author I've ever heard of. Shaka, Shaka, Senghor, Senghor.
Hmm. That's
But
our fiction?
no, that's a nonfiction. How to Be Free: A Proven Guide to Escaping Life's Hidden Prisons.
Ooh.
One, two, three, four, five, six of us voted for that one.
Wow.
So So it
Yeah, no,
was,
and for anyone that wants to join book club, this is probably a really good time to join because we're reading short guys, short books.
yeah, that one's like 270 pages, and Fahrenheit
Mhm.
451 is under 200.
Yeah. But I know I've found that in the summers it's harder to get people to join book club than it is in the winters, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to get people to do much of anything in the summer.
Yeah, it's so true.
Between kids and vacations and
Yeah. Of which I have none of, so that's why I'm here.
whether we're talking about books or not, I'm going to be reading them. So
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm glad like to get the perspective of so many people from so many different walks of life. Like Hal's actually like an internal audit executive like and um I would say that like a lot of my recent like career advice has come from Hal. Yeah. So
hope that's working out for you.
if it's good, I was totally involved. If it was bad, I didn't tell you do it. No, there were suggestions. And so, yeah, no, I really enjoy coming to book club and getting these perspectives because we're not just talking about books, we're talking about life.
And
And
I'd say more than half of the books are books I either didn't know anything about and
mhm.
probably never would have read, and almost all the time am glad that I did.
Me too, me
So,
too. My world is expanded because of these recommendations.
yeah.
Like, how boring would it be, I thought, to be like Oprah or Reese Witherspoon, where they pick the book?
Yeah. I don't know this for a fact, but I don't think
They don't even pick their book.
they pick it. I think they have
Her agent
staff that
picks it or something.
recommends for them, and
They don't even read it.
here's why you want to pick this one.
Yeah. And they don't even read it.
Yeah, I doubt it. I don't know how they have time.
Yeah, I don't think they would have time. Like, they'd have to be in, like, want to read so bad. But yeah, no. Um
Well, hopefully, at least Stephen and maybe a couple of others will be able to join us.
Join the next
I'd
one.
love Stephen's perspective since he did
Yeah.
say he read the whole book.
I think that Steven's perspective, like, often it really surprises me, and it's like pretty divergent. Like, it's just like I wouldn't even thought of it that way, but it's right.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Okay,
All right.
well, I'll let you get back to your meeting, and I got to get back to work as well.
Okay. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.